Hello Drangers, Cat Clay here to talk to you today about the ending of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or as I'd like to call this video, what in the Helheim just happened.
To Norway, then. Good. Lead on!
After 100 hours of gameplay, I was so ready for this epic boss battle between Sigurd and Eivor, fighting it out after all that conflict that had been building up through the game, and instead I got this. I mean, what even is this? It's Basim in a Three Wolf Moon t-shirt. In this video, I'm going to try and break down what actually happened at the end of Valhalla. Now, I've played almost all the Assassin's Creed video games and even I was confused, so I'm sure there's people out there who are just as confused as I am. So bear with me, it is a lot. So Sigurd has been getting these visions through the game, and as time goes on, he keeps getting a little bit more erratic, a little bit more cray-cray. And it was like, look, you're my bro, but also stop talking about these weird dreams because I'm getting a little scared for the fate of our clan, also England. But then he's like, hey Eivor, let's go back to Norway and go tell off my dad for being a sucky parent, okay? And by the way, while we're there, we're gonna do some sightseeing, all right? She's like, yeah, sure, bro. I want to go to Norway too because it's like freaking cold and your dad's there and we can tell him what a bad parent he was to both of us. And he's like, actually, so by the way, I had another motive for going to Norway. It's actually not just to see my dad, but to go to this crazy temple that's been in my dreams. You want to come along, sis? And she's like, yeah, I would never betray you, bro. But also, like, it's really cold and I'm really glad I brought my sweet ass armor. And they'd go and journey up a mountain, a la Journey. If you haven't played that video game yet, I suggest you do right now because it is amazing. And they literally find a temple. And it was like, what? You were right, Sigurd? Like, all your dreams and visions are actually true? By the way, there is an awesome spear hiding in a cavern behind here. It's like a glow-in-the-dark spear with like a force field, so you should totally go and pick it up if you're playing this game. Now Sigurd speaks this funny language, which I think is actually the language of the Isu, the alien race that arcs over the entire Assassin's Creed storyline. So there are crazy machines down here in this Viking basement. And of course, being Vikings, they think it's the Tree of Life. And this is the gateway to Valhalla, the heavenly realms of the Vikings, where they will fight and live. Thank you, Momo. Once they get close to these crazy machines, Eivor and Sigurd jack into what is essentially the Valhalla Matrix and get zapped into a Groundhog Day style fake Valhalla, which is obviously a simulation that is very similar in look and feel to the Animus, which is used in the future by the Abstergo Corporation and all the renegades that seem to steal crap from the Abstergo Corporation in order to take them down. Obviously, this is not real, and after a few goes through the Groundhog Day style simulation, Eivor gets shot in the eye with an arrow a la Odin or King Harold, depending on how well you know your medieval history. Turns out the real culprit behind this kind of psychological simulation is Odin, the guy that's been haunting her for so long and pesting her about her morally grey ambiguous decisions all game. So, you got a showdown with Odin, and the thing is, you can't possibly defeat Odin. He's a god, right? So the only opportunity you have is to get away, but every time you try to get away to this door that Sigurd has conveniently provided to you, you get zapped back to the fight with Odin through the axe that you're carrying. Now this might seem obvious to some people, but I was like playing this for like 5 minutes, trying to run away and then getting pulled back into the game, and then I'm like, but how am I going to take down Odin? Maybe I just slash at him a bit, but there's no bar and what's going on. Turns out you have to unequip the axe. You know, it's a very War Games ending that the ultimate game is not to play. So apparently you, as a Viking, you need to lay down your axe and run away. And that is the ultimate sign that you've matured and grown up as a person and as a leader, Eivor. I actually had to wait until the game spelled it out to me to figure out because it didn't make any sense in the context of the game. Nothing had been built up to this moment and nothing had told me that this is the logical outcome that Eivor should do. She really hadn't questioned enough of her heritage and her Viking motivations, and there were certain times where I as a player had made choices which were in line with that kind of violence that she supports as a Viking. It didn't make sense, and if a game needs to spell that out for the player, then it's not very good game design. Once you're out of Odin's clutches, it's not over. Basim, our friendly neighborhood assassin who was kind of a little bit suspicious about how he'd ingratiated himself with Sigurd, I gotta say, and he just rocks up out of nowhere in the middle of Norway in some icy fjord and he's like, "You killed my son, prepare to die." And I'm like, what, dude? Like, I'm Eivor, man, your friend. Like, I did not kill your son. Like, I think you've got that wrong, Eivor. I think we're a bit confused here. Like, we don't need to fight, bro. But he's determined to fight you, so you gotta fight back, because you are a Viking. And the battle ends with him getting jacked up into the Matrix-like machines forever and ever and all of Helheim. Or so we thought. Cut to Layla Hassan in the near future, still trying to bring down Abstergo Corporation. It turns out this magic disco ball in the Norwegian vault is actually causing lots of damage to the Earth and causing the temperature of the Earth to rise. This is going to cause the Earth to explode again. Desmond dealt with this back in the day by saving the world to sacrifice his own life to turn down the thermostat, but the temperature's gone up again and it's up to Layla Hassan to save the day. Turns out there's all this really bad radiation in this vault, so she's got to use the staff she got in Odyssey to protect herself because it's a magic healing wand. Cue parkour over some magical Isu artifacts and you find this crusty looking Basim dangling from those scary looking hooks. He's managed to survive, 1,000 or so years dangling from a hook. Of course, the only way to save the world is to get jacked into the Matrix and not to just go and touch this ball and turn around or press a button. So Layla Hassan ends up zapped into the projections. Apparently, Basim has been faxing Layla all these weird messages through the Matrix using the wireless networks and the Ethernet and the cloud because of science. Then a glowing figure shows up and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Desmond from the earlier games, but you're looking all glowy, hun. Like, did you realize that? And he's in front of this magic kind of like astral projection tree that looks like it's out of some slick corporate video about interconnectivity. And he can see all the outcomes of all the choices in the world using this magic science tree. And Layla's like, man, can we use that to save the world? He's like, yeah, sure. Do you want to stick around for a bit? Like, I've got some chips over here. We can have a good time, watch some TV, like figure out how to save the world. We've got lots of time. And she's like, sure, bro. Like, I think that's a good use of my time because like I've had a rough time of it. And I think all of my fates have led me here. And she's like, oh, but I better go tell my friends that I'm not coming home. So she calls them from the Matrix and she's like, oh, hang on, what happened to my staff? He drops out of the Matrix, grabs the magic wand and regenerates into middle-aged Basim. I mean, man, like if I had a magic wand that could change my appearance back to my young self, I'd probably go a bit younger than what Basim goes here. I'm really surprised also that his clothes survived, but clearly not, because when we see him next, he is dressed in a hoodie and a 3 Wolf Moon t-shirt. And I'm like, what? He basically looks like he should be a Melbourne barista. And we're back where we started at the Viking grave, which happens to be Eivor's grave, and she still hasn't died yet. Once you finish that section of the game, you can go back into the Animus with Basim playing as Eivor's brain, which is just like mind-blowing. And once you go back into the Animus, there's a cutscene. Now, depending on the outcome of the game, whether you got the good or the bad ending, I could make a whole video about how there's no such thing as a good or a bad ending in a video game. If you got the ending where Sigurd likes Eivor at the end, he'll come back with you to England. And Eivor's like, yeah, thanks, bro. Let's all be Vikings together and sing Viking songs and feast and be merry. So we're all friends now, unless you got the bad ending, and I think Sigurd stays in Norway. But it's pretty hard to get the bad ending. You have to be a pretty big douche to do that. Although I really was tempted to punch Basim in the face. And then there's some Viking singing and we're all buddies and we chink our glasses and hang on, don't we have to go and fight King Aelfred? Turns out that's optional. You don't actually have to fight King Aelfred to kind of finish this game off. And this is a narrative problem because the structure of the narrative kind of tapered off to the end. I think there was a really great acceleration of narrative while you're doing the first few story arcs, especially the arcs that were leading up to rescuing Sigurd from Fulke. But once that tapered off, there was still about 5 to 10 extra quests you had to do, plus this Norway arc, and none of it really aligned with kind of like that real arc of storytelling, which is you have those epic scenes and those epic fights right at the end of the story. So as soon as I finished the game, I texted one of my friends and said, what just happened? And they texted me back and they're like, you played the Valhalla quest, right? You know, the ones with the healer woman who gives you drugs and you go off to Valhalla. No, because they were kind of boring and I just wanted to keep going with the storyline. Turns out, all of this important information, which explains the end of Valhalla, is buried in the Valhalla optional quests. Why you would do that is beyond me. I mean, if something is important to the narrative and the understanding of the conclusion of the story and the meaning of the story, why do you make those quests optional? Because the ending won't have the impact you want it to. So it turns out Eivor is the incarnation of Odin, and I mean, we got a little bit of that, a hint of that with the pokey eye arrow. Odin has one eye. The idea that Odin has been pestering her this entire game. Well, it turns out that Odin is actually just a projection of Eivor's self. So she's really just talking to herself through all the moral decisions in this game. But where it comes to the whole Basm plotline, Basm is the incarnation of Loki. Yes, that's right, the trickster god. And his son Fenrir was killed by Odin. But unless you know anything about Norse mythology, you're probably not going to pick up on that. I needed my friend to explain this to me. Hence the wolf t-shirt. Fenrir, wolf. This would have been useful information to make sense of why Basm was shouting about his son. So if you're going to go and play the ending, I would highly recommend you actually go and play the Valhalla quest lines before you get to the end of the game. For me, as someone who's passionate about games writing, this to me is a massive narrative and structural problem in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The problem that the Assassin's Creed franchise has is that it's so epic and spanning that there's very few people who are going to have played all the games. I'm a long-term fan, so I've played most of the games, but even I haven't completed everything. I don't know the entire backstory, and I found this confusing. Imagine what this would be like for someone whose first Assassin's Creed game is Valhalla. When I originally reviewed this game, I thought it was a very strong RPG, but I felt like as the game went on, the structure and the storytelling, it gradually fell apart. It was kind of like they'd really focused heavily on that first half of the game, but then tapered out as the game progressed. So while I did enjoy playing this for the most part, I did feel like it was too long and too big. And compared to some of the other Assassin's Creed games like the beautiful Syndicate, which has a lovely compressed world and excellent storytelling, or even Origins, where all the missions and the main quest really related back to the loss of his child, this game really sprawled in that second half, and the ending is a product of that kind of, I feel a little bit of poor planning and kind of stretched narrative design here. The wacky ending does do one thing right. It sets up Basm as a character in the near future and for ongoing Assassin's Creed games, and I think that's the kind of character AC needs. It's a trickster character. And it brings an interesting character into those modern day scenarios, which could be quite intriguing, especially since he actually has assassin skills. I'd love to see Basm in action, and I also want to see what he does next. So hopefully that's helped you understand the end of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know I was confused. I hope you are less confused now. If you have any feedback, if you have any thoughts on the ending, you want to chat about it, just hit me up in the comments below. I'm Kat Clay. I would love it if you hit subscribe, if you enjoy this content, want to see more video game stuff, writing, cosplay, all of that nerd stuff, hit subscribe, and thanks so much for watching.